Welcome to Books and Booze, an episode where it is just Jade. Hashtag just Jade episodes. Chiara needs a handle for that too if she ever wants to do episodes of her own, or sometimes if we couldn't film together. Sadly, she couldn't be with me today, and I will get into that a little bit later. But just so you know, this is going to be a short episode giving you a very, very special interview with an international best-selling author. I promise I've only just started having a glass of wine. I don't know what's going on with me. Enjoy. I recently, over the past weekend, got to attend the Brisbane Writers' Festival and had the amazing opportunity to meet and interview A.J Finn, the author of The Woman in the Window. When I first heard about this book, I was petrified that it was going to be a carbon copy of The Girl on the Train, but I am so happy that I decided to pick it up anyway, because this book just took its own ride. It was absolutely incredible, one of the best thrillers I've ever read, and meeting A.J Finn and getting to interview him one-on-one for this podcast was an absolute dream come true. So thank you to all of you that have been downloading episodes and being so supportive of us, because it's making things like this possible for us. So we really appreciate it. We also have shirts out if you're interested. I think, what are they? I think they're $25 per shirt, a t-shirt or a singlet, and they've got our logo on it. And we've also got wine glasses and coffee mugs, which are gorgeous. They're going for $10, and then it's also, you've got to include your shipping and stuff, but we'll also be doing giveaways with these now and again, so you can always try and enter our giveaways. We've had some lucky winners already for books from Book Depository, and someone got a copy of Scrublands, so there you go. Chances are you could possibly win something. Anyway, I am really excited to bring you this interview with A.J Finn today. Let me just say, I was very nervous because I was alone. Chiara wasn't there, so I was asking questions for the both of us. I was bloody starstruck and sober because it was 10 o'clock in the morning. So I didn't have anything to calm my nerves. Now I'm relaxing at home with a glass of wine, even though it's the first day of my health detox, which is not good, but anyway, I won't tell you what The Woman in the Window is about, because if you don't know, I don't know why you're listening to this episode, because that book is phenomenal. But just for your listening pleasure, I did ask AJ to give it a brief synopsis during our interview. We were very pressed for time as well, because we only had 20 minutes, so it was a bit rushed. And also, I met him at the hotel that he stayed in, and the hotel is under construction. There is no conference room. There is nowhere quiet. It sounds like we're at a construction site. So I do apologize for that. Just, there might be some banging and it might be a little bit echoey, but it's the best that I could do. Like I said, this is all really big trial and error for us. I did not have enough money to book out a hotel room to interview this guy in, and obviously it would just be a bit strange to ask him if I could join him in his hotel room. I mean, I know he loves men like me, but it's just still probably not the most professional thing to do. So decided not to do that, or ask him if he wanted to have a glass of wine, because it was too early and he had events, so he couldn't be stumbling around. But just let me tell you, he is so fun. He's such a funny, charismatic guy. He's so well spoken and articulate. He's wonderful, and I've shared his picture, our picture with him and I together, because obviously I'm just gushing, and everyone that I know is just like, gosh, he's such a hottie. And yeah, he is, like, in person even more so. And one of my friends, Andrew, he said, oh, his non-existent ovaries are bursting or something. Oh, I just love it. So AJ gets a lot of attention from both females and males, and he deserves it, because not only is he very good looking, he is exceptionally talented, and I hope you enjoy this interview. Have a great time listening to it, and subscribe to us, like us on our Instagram page. It's Books Booze Pod, but that's also our handle for Twitter. And we do have Patreon if you feel like just supporting us and helping us get a little bit of cash together so that we can start doing some more and exciting things for the podcast. Anyway, I'm rambling. Enjoy the interview. Bye! Thank you so much for joining us today. It's so nice to have you on the podcast.
Thanks.
Normally what we do is we decide to pair books that we have with a type of wine, because we're called Books and Booze. So if you had to choose a certain wine, which wine would you choose to pair with?
This one's pretty obvious, isn't it? I would choose Merlot because that's what the heroine chugs throughout.
Yeah. I decided not to choose a wine for this one because she's an alcoholic.
She's awash in it, yes.
Yes, and I know my co-host said that she had an amazing one, but unfortunately we couldn't get her on today. But she did have some questions for you.
Sure.
So first she just wants you to explain the book a little bit for the listeners that might somehow not have actually read the book, which they've been living under a rock.
So basically this novel is Hitchcock's Rear Window for the 21st century. And our narrator was once a respected child psychologist, but now she's stricken with agoraphobia and literally cannot set foot outside her house, which proves problematic when she believes she witnesses a murder in a neighboring home. She cannot persuade anyone, including the police, to believe her, and soon she starts to doubt whether she saw anything at all.
Okay. It sounds amazing. Like, I've read it quite a while ago now. As you can see, my copy is
It's dog-eared and battered. Yep.
I just want to ask you, well, this is actually a question from Chiara. Anna watches a lot of gorgeous old films in the book itself and has a bit of a Rear Window feel. Where does your love from old movies come from?
When I was a teenager, I lived down the street from an art house cinema in the States, and every weekend the managers of the cinema would host film noir retrospectives and classic movie nights and Hitchcock marathons, and I would park in the movie theater every Friday and Saturday night and just steep myself in all of it. What I particularly appreciated and continue to appreciate was how these films affirm the value and impact of restraint and suggestion. So many modern stories, whether on the screen or on the page, wallow in bloodshed and graphic content, and I've got a pretty limited capacity for violence. Hitchcock demonstrated that the mind is a much darker and more dramatic playground for our fears than anything he could project onto the screen. That's why there's very little explicit violence in this novel.
Yes. I was watching some of your other interviews earlier this morning, and you mentioned The Vanishing?
Yes, The Vanishing is a Dutch-French thriller from 1987, which I watched at age 9, a couple of years later when it was released in the States. And this film is not for children. Stanley Kubrick described it as the scariest movie he'd ever seen. Warning indeed. And the late American critic Roger Ebert described its ending as horrifying but probably inevitable. It's the story of a man whose girlfriend disappears from a rest area gas station, and it builds ineluctably towards this famed finale. There's not a drop of blood shed in the entire film, but it remains the most terrifying movie I've ever seen, and I watched it at a formative age.
That's absolutely... I need to watch it. I haven't watched it yet.
Make sure you watch the original and not the remake with Sandra Bullock and Jeff Bridges.
No?
It's now.
Well, speaking of movies, tell us about the Fox movie adaptation. Who's playing Anna?
Sure.
And, you know, your involvement in the movie.
My involvement is nil. I visited the set last month. They entered production on August 5th, I believe, or 6th. The lead role is being played by Amy Adams, who appeared in Arrival and American Hustle and Enchanted. The supporting roles are being played by, among others, Julianne Moore and Gary Oldman.
Wow.
And I have not contributed much to the film. I didn't write the script. They hired a Pulitzer-winning playwright called Tracy Letts to pen the screenplay. The film is being directed by Joe Wright, an Englishman who made Darkest Hour, Atonement, Pride and Prejudice. And the producer, Scott Rudin, won an Oscar for No Country for Old Men and also made The Social Network, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, The Grand Budapest Hotel. It's quite a pedigreed cast and crew. And the film will be released in Australia in September 2019.
So long to wait.
It's a year. Could be worse.
But I love that Joe Wright, I didn't know Joe Wright was filming it because I'm so excited. Pride and Prejudice with Keira Knightley and Matthew McFadden.
Yes.
Yeah, he's that movie is incredibly done to me, especially the opening scene.
The opening is exquisite. Joe specializes in book to film adaptations, Atonement, Pride and Prejudice, Darkest Hour, etc.
Okay. Anyway, back to your book. Chiara wants to know, was it hard writing a female protagonist?
Not particularly, to be honest, and it could be that I'm very in touch with my feminine side. But I feel that the distinctions between the sexes are in some cases somewhat overpronounced. I don't know how a woman thinks, but equally I don't know how other men think. I know how I think. And I'd like to believe that Anna registers as a person first and foremost, and as a woman almost secondarily.
Yeah. Okay. And then I know, I know that you suffer with some mental health issues of
Yeah.
your own, and I've got very bad anxiety as well.
Right.
But I wanted to know, because you were incorrectly diagnosed with mental health issues for over 10 years.
15, in fact.
15.
Yep.
Okay. I love the mental health element in your book, and I just wanted to find out what made you choose agoraphobia as this mental illness that Anna has.
Well, I struggled with what I believed was depression before it was diagnosed as bipolar 2,
Yeah.
which is a form of bipolar wherein the highs are not as dizzying or as manic as in the classic bipolar that we've seen on shows like Homeland,
Yeah.
but the lows are lower and more enduring. We should add that we are in the middle of a hotel lobby under construction,
Yes.
hence all the background noise.
I do apologize.
No, it just sounds as though we're in a
I'll
construction
try my
site.
best to edit
That's
it.
how hardcore we are. In any event, agoraphobia, from which I've never suffered in its classic sense, seemed to me a point of access for the reader.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is that often, and certainly I've experienced this firsthand, others, even those who are well-meaning, don't understand that you cannot simply will yourself out of a mental health issue
Yeah.
or depression or anxiety. You can't just snap out of it.
Yeah.
Many people can't imagine what that's like, but they probably can imagine what it's like to be stuck inside one's house. So again, agoraphobia provides a point of entry for the reader. It also seems to me a neat metaphor. This character is locked inside her mind just as she's locked inside her home.
Yes. Okay. And Chiara wants to know, is there any other genres that you want to experiment with?
Not at this time.
No.
I like psychological thrillers. I'm glad they've attracted a mass audience in recent years. I think they're an enduring form of literature that is not going to vanish. Patricia Highsmith, who is the subject of my graduate student work at Oxford, helped pioneer this genre in the 1950s with novels like Strangers on a Train and The Talented Mr. Ripley, although I think you can trace the genre all the way back to 1898 when Henry James published Return of the Screw, which features the ultimate unreliable narrator.
Yeah.
But to return to me, I find this genre challenging and fun. More to the point, and I think this is why it's attained such altitude in recent years, psychological suspense speaks quite specifically to an unease that many of us register in the 21st century.
Definitely.
Serial killer thrillers can be fun, but most of us are not going to encounter a serial killer in our lives.
Yeah.
So the serial killer thriller is almost necessarily a fantasy.
Yeah.
Many of us, however, can imagine what it's like to distrust a neighbor or a friend or a spouse or a family member. So the psychological thriller seems to be more relatable than other crime genres.
Okay. On that note then, what about your next book? Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. The next book is another psychological thriller, this one set in San Francisco.
Yep.
And just as the first book was heavily influenced by classic suspense cinema, this new book is significantly informed by classic suspense fiction by the likes of Agatha Christie and Arthur Conan Doyle. One of the central characters is a crime novelist.
Okay. I'm very, very excited
Oh,
for
so
it.
am I.
I'm
Thank you.
honestly one of your biggest fans.
That's kind of you.
So this is a dream come true, and I feel so bad that Chiara isn't here.
Oh, I'm
to
sorry to
interview.
miss her. Yes.
Yeah, she's a huge fan of yours as well. I just want to add one more question because we've still got a few minutes.
Yes, sure.
One or two, and one is if you could describe your book, this one, The Woman in the Window, and your new one in 3 adjectives, what would they be?
Am I applying the same adjectives to both books?
No, you can choose
Okay.
different ones.
Am I allowed to big myself up? Am
Yes.
I allowed to sound
Yep.
arrogant?
You should.
Okay, I'd like to apply the following adjectives to The Woman in the Window. This is what I aspired to, certainly. Sophisticated, sinister, moving.
Perfect.
And to be honest, I'd like to apply the same 3 adjectives to the second novel as well.
Oh, I'm so excited. And what about for yourself? 3 adjectives for yourself. I'm betting you're not sinister.
Or sophisticated, for that matter.
You seem pretty well-spoken and sophisticated.
It's a smoke screen. Right now, hungry, sleepy, and under-exercised. But generally, more broadly, when I'm not sleepy or hungry or under-exercised, inquisitive, kind. I do think I'm a kind person. And I love French bulldogs. I don't know if there's an adjective that sums that up quite neatly, but I'm wearing French bulldog socks.
Oh wow, that's so cool.
Aren't they cute?
Very cute.
Thank you.
So, we normally end off our episodes with boozy banter. I know it's a bit too early to be drinking,
Sure
but
is.
if you could like say something that you've been enjoying lately, whether it be a book, a movie, your travels,
Yep.
anything that's been happening, like what can you say about what you've been enjoying in life lately?
Well, I've been on a 3-week tour of Australia and New Zealand, and
Yeah.
I've loved it.
I
I got
saw
to
your
visit
pictures.
Sydney and Auckland and Christchurch and Melbourne, Adelaide, and now Brisbane.
That's
And it's been fantastic. I love Brisbane, South Bank, absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Listening, lively, love it. So the travels have been extraordinary. On my travels, I've been reading a number of books. I've been revisiting the work of Niall Marsh, who's a classic Kiwi Golden Age detective writer, little known in Australia, actually, and not particularly popular anymore in New Zealand, but in her day she was a rival of Agatha Christie. I recently read a novel called Circe by Madeline Miller.
Yes,
which
I've been wanting to read that.
It's wonderful. It's absolutely
I've heard.
exquisite. I loved Boy Swallows Universe by Trent Dalton,
Yep.
and I'm about to do a panel with him, and apparently he's a lovely bloke, so I'm looking forward to meeting him.
lovely.
And in terms of films, I don't think I've seen anything that blew me away. I watched Call Me By Your Name back in November, and it still registers with me. That movie did something to me on the molecular level. I don't think I ever want to see it again because the experience was so perfect. But on the other hand, I do want to see it again because
Yeah.
the experience was so perfect.
Oh, lovely.
Yep.
Is it your first time in Australia?
Yes, it is.
Wow,
First,
okay.
it's only my second time south of the equator, actually.
Gosh.
Yep, I was in Brazil at the beginning of August, and now Australia.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. I know that we're a bit pressed for time, so I'll let you get going on to your exciting day.
Thank you.
And it was lovely to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, where can we find you? Your social media handles for people to follow you?
So, I don't check Facebook ever.
Okay.
I've given up on Facebook.
Yep.
I don't understand it. On Instagram and Twitter, where I post quite infrequently, I'm at A.J Finn, 2 N's books. A.J Finn books, all one word.
Perfect. I'll leave it in the show notes so that people can definitely go give you a follow and
Great.
support you.
Thank you so much, Jade.
Okay, bye.